Hey everyone, this is Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and we're here live on the floor of Jenkins World 2017, and I'm joined by Tim Mackey, Senior Technical Evangelist from Black Duck Software. Tim, did I get that right?
You got that exactly right, Alan.
Without even any paper, fantastic. So Tim, well, before we jump into things, Black Duck Software, maybe some people don't know what it is. Give us a little background.
So Black Duck has been around for about 14 years now. We started out as a company at a point in time when open source security really boiled down to legal teams saying, GPL is super scary, what are our obligations? Have we got ourselves in trouble somehow? We did pretty well with that as our risk element for the better part of, I want to say, about 8-10 years. And then along comes Heartbleed, and people want to say, well, you've got this authoritative knowledge base that understands everything open source. Could you have told us about it beforehand?
Would you have listened?
Well, there is definitely that. And the answer came back, well, we didn't ask the question. So we came back and we started saying, you know what? Let's actually start asking a few more interesting questions of our knowledge base. Let's start working with kind of what's in there. And from that, we got to open source security. So new CVE comes out. How do you map it to what you're working with? And we've pivoted that a few times over the last 3.5 years. We also include something called operational risk. So you've decided that a specific version of a component is yours, you want stable, but is that the end of the development stream for it? Are the commit activity moved someplace else? Getting that kind of insight into it. And so that's kind of where we are today as a company and our core technologies.
Excellent. So Tim, I want to talk about open source risk.
Okay.
Because, certainly with Heartbleed and other kind of recent disasters we've read about.
Are you thinking like Dyne and IoT madness and stuff?
Yeah, all of it. I mean, here's the, to me anyway, here's the crux of it. So much of our application economy today is built on open source components.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a total open source application, the components in there are open source. And we like that. It makes life easy. We can modify, we can do a lot of things. Well, what happens is you put an open source component from a third party into my app, and then that app runs 3 years. I never bother looking, has that open source component been updated? What's going on with it? We just tend to think, well, open source, there's a lot of eyes on it.
Yep.
Right? That's the thing, is many eyes on that
Linus
open source
Torvalds,
code.
the many eyes theory,
Right.
Yes, exactly.
And so we trust it. And at the end of the day, open source isn't a panacea for security, certainly, any more than and it's no more secure than any other software, frankly. So how do we raise awareness around that?
So this is actually one of the things that I'm spent, call it the better part of this year, being completely on about. Understanding that open source isn't free. Open source is not without obligation. Open source isn't without responsibility. And so to give you an example of responsibility, let's say, for example, that I'm a reasonable sized company and I've decided that Docker's my way forward. And I'm going to go and download from Docker's public GitHub a version of Docker, and I'm going to deploy it, and it's going to do exactly what I need it to do. I now have a platform, and that's completely free software, and that works. And I go and I put whatever container images that I'm going to put in there, and I run it for a while. Who's actually responsible for A, maintaining that Docker installation, B, ensuring that it's adequately secured, and C, making certain that they're engaged with the community to know when it's going to change. So,
And be aware.
exactly. So a very simple change could really mess with people. So Docker, for example, when they moved the engine from 1.12 to 1.13, they changed how a login works.
Yep.
Truly trivial thing for most people. However, if you just arbitrarily upgraded, now your entire management paradigm just broke.
You got thousands of Docker containers.
Exactly.
Your host.
Exactly. And forget concepts of forks and branches and merging and all that kind of stuff. That was just a straight line. And I think that the core of the problem really comes down to, we have grown up in a world of consumption. And we go and acquire technology from a vendor and we establish some level of relationship with that vendor. And that's not necessarily true in the world of open source.
No.
You've got like organizations like Red Hat and Canonical and SUSE, which will go and offer supported configurations and test and verify and vet. But that's not true for most open source. Like,
No.
who's the company behind OpenSSL?
And I remember that one too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And who's the company behind glibc?
I'll tell you a really funny story with OpenSSL. When I was at Still Secure, a company I co-founded, I tried to buy that. We did. We thought, SourceFire was buying
Right.
IMAV and other open
Right,
source.
right.
And I knew OpenSSL was a great thing to buy. We would have stopped the insecurity, but whatever. Such is history. Instead, I'm here doing DevOps interviews.
You know what? You're on TV.
Hey, I'm a star. But anyway, Tim, but seriously, it is. It's a real issue that the longer we don't deal with it, the more technical debt we build up.
Exactly.
And it's something we need to
Exactly.
come
So
to terms with.
every time that I do a session, a seminar at any event, that's one of the big things I say is that figure out what you're actually dependent upon in your organization and find somebody who cares to be part of the community and support their endeavors. They might just hang out on a support list. They may just hang out in some dev room someplace.
Yeah.
They may never contribute code, but at least that way you're aware of what's going on, that you're invested in your success. And you're not going to get caught off guard like something simple like, say, the Docker login.
Agreed. Tim, we're about out of time because they're going to be closing this down. But thank you for coming on and joining us on DevOps TV here at Jenkins World. And continued success with Black Duck, man.
Thank you, Alan.
Black Duck Software, Tim McGee, Alan Schimmel from DevOps.com, DevOps TV here at Jenkins World. See you soon.